It's Michael Cohen back here with you just a day later, basically, 2 games and a day later after I posted that video when the Mets had lost 11 out of 14. Now we can say it's now 13 out of 16. Take a look at that score right there. Take a look at it. Look at it. It's a composite box score, 30-4. That's not a trick. It's not playing. I'm not playing tricks on you. No, it's not a football score. That's not the Jets-Steelers score in a few months. Although it may end up being that way, but who knows? That is indeed the Mets-Pirates score over 3 games, 30-4. 40 hits by the Pittsburgh Pirates over 3 games, and only 23 for the New York Mets. Because let's take a look at this. Here are some numbers for you after this weekend series, as the Pittsburgh Pirates not just beat. They demolished the New York Mets over 3 games, outscored by a franchise record, 26 runs in a 3-game sweep at the hands of the Pirates. The lowly Pittsburgh Pirates, who entering Sunday's play, had the lowest run total in the National League. The lowest run total in the National League, the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Colorado Rockies, who have the worst record in baseball, have scored more runs coming into this game on Sunday than the Pittsburgh Pirates have all season. The Pittsburgh Pirates, who are now, after their 3-game sweep, 35-50. They are 15 under 500. It's one thing to lose, as the Mets did this year, 5 straight to the Atlanta Braves. The Atlanta Braves, who we all know are better than their record says they are. This is a team that was in the Atlanta Braves that was in the World Series a couple of years ago. The Pittsburgh Pirates haven't been good in decades. And the couple of times they have been good during the prime of Andrew McCutchen's career, they got to a couple of wild cards, but that's really about it. They haven't been the Pittsburgh Pirates, it's not the 70s, We Are Family Pirates that we're talking about. This is a franchise that has been in the cellar for a very, 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 very long time. And the Mets got swept away by the Pittsburgh Pirates. It's one thing, and here's another thing. It's another thing if you lose, a couple of games, 3-1, 4-2, 5-3. You get annihilated 9-1, 9-2. 12-1. These games aren't even close, and it goes back to everything that I said on Saturday morning. You want to watch that video? The link is here. Of course, you can also find it here below in the description as well. This team doesn't have any pitching right now, and there are so many different avenues as to the reason why. One, obviously, the injuries. Injuries to Kodai Senga, Tyler McGill, and yes, even Griffin Canning, despite the fact that he was struggling too. But also the obvious fact is this team hit a wall in June. This pitching staff, which when we broke camp and all the fans and media looked at this roster and looked at this pitching staff and say, I don't know if this is a good pitching staff right now. I don't know if they're a complete pitching staff. They got a lot of questions. Luis Severino, they let go of him. Sean Manaea starts the year in the IL. We're not sure about this pitching staff. And they pitched better than expected, beyond better than expected to start the season. But as is the case with baseball, eventually the law of averages comes knocking on the door. And that has been the case with the Mets. But it's been disturbingly bad. It's been hideously bad. Frankie Montes looked pretty good his first start earlier in the week against Atlanta with 5 shutout innings. Forget about it this time. 6 earned runs on 7 hits over 4 innings, and most of those runs came in the first inning when Pittsburgh scored 5 runs off of Frankie Montes. So Frankie Montes, if you were paying attention, during his minor league rehab, had an ERA of 12 in 6 starts. Mets decided, well, we need pitching anyway. We got to bring this guy up, and after pitching well, looked like the guy that had a 12 ERA in the minor leagues in 6 starts on rehab assignment. It was bad. It was real bad. But what makes it worse is that this bullpen, they just can't get out of their own way. In fact, let's dive into the numbers here on the Mets in this series. This is just so painful right now. Oh, man. I mean, we had a season here, folks, and look, they could still dig their way out of this. They really could. Excuse me. They can still find a way to dig their way out of this. It's not over. I'm not here to tell you that forget it, the season's over. Man, the signs are there that this thing is coming apart at the seams. It really is. In this series, the Mets had a 5.02 ERA in this series against Pittsburgh. That's just unacceptable. And I mentioned the bullpen, right? Blake Tidwell came out of the bullpen, 4 earned runs in 3 1/3 innings. Okay? Oscar Brosbon, who's just been terrible this month, 4 earned runs in an inning and a third. Paul Blackburn, I mean, what can I say? 3 earned runs on 6 hits in just 1 inning. And then, of course, they bring back Richard Lovelady, who they gave him a 1-year contract on Sunday morning. This is the guy they designated for assignment just the other day after he imploded against the Braves. And he gives up a couple of runs on Sunday afternoon. I believe that was the O'Neill Cruz home run. Cruz, who had 2 home runs for the Pirates, in fact. I mean, the Mets were even pitching Travis Jankowski, who is a infielder/outfielder. That's how bad it's getting when the infield. This is the second time, I think, in the last week that we've seen a position player pitch for the Mets. What is this, 2001, when Desi Relaford was coming out of the bullpen? At least Desi Relaford could get outs. We saw Jared Young, and now we're seeing Travis Jankowski. My goodness. This is bad. This is really bad. Let me just go back a couple of days. I don't even go back to Saturday. I haven't even gotten to the offense. What's the point? That was the Blackburn start, right? Yep, it was. Get up 3 runs in the first inning, and then the Mets stayed close. It was 3-2 going into the 8th inning, and then Brosbon comes in, and it was all hell broke loose. 6 runs in the 8th inning for the Pirates, becomes 9-2. It's not, like I said, it's not just losing. You can stand, like I said, losing 2-1, losing 4-3. It's getting annihilated like this that makes you wonder on a daily basis. That has to leave you wondering what is going to change for this team. Now, there's a tweet by Andy Martino that the Met officials say that they have confidence in the Mets coaching staff. I'm not blaming the Mets coaching staff for all this because I think this goes beyond just coaching. All right? This is an organizational problem. I think that they bet on the idea that, one, chemistry, a lot of the chemistry with a lot of the guys that were on this team a year ago, they thought that they could move on based on age, from a number of guys like a Jose Iglesias he was 36 years old, and just based on age, they felt that they could move on without him, but they miss having that kind of guy in the clubhouse. They miss having guys like Luis Severino in this rotation, a guy that they kind of shortchanged on a contract. Now, look, Severino's not pitched great for the A's, but I saw that stat earlier before the game against the Yankees that he was pitching well on the road. Problem was he was pitching poorly at home for the Las Vegas A's because they're playing in a minor league ballpark right now in Sacramento. Maybe the Mets should have pwned it up a little more to try to keep it. Maybe they should have pwned it up a little bit more to keep a Jose Iglesias. These are all second guessing right now. It just feels like they could have done more to preserve the culture that they had a year ago. But at the same time, when you're suffering injuries the way they are, and the pitching is as bad as it is, maybe it wouldn't have made much of a difference, one way or the other. So I can't blame the coaching totally. I know that when you have a team that has high expectations and you're expected to win, and you're expected to win big, someone's going to get blamed. Someone's going to, unfortunately, get blamed. And we've seen that from the Mets in the past. We saw it, obviously, 2008. We all know what happened with Willie Randolph, right? You go back to 1999. Mets were struggling middle of the year, around this time of the year, in fact, in 99, right? They had high expectations going into that year, and Steve Phillips had a full sweep of the entire coaching staff. Fired the pitching coach, fired the hitting coach, did all these things. You never want to see people lose their jobs over these kind of things, but it does happen. That's what I'm saying, and I do not blame any one individual coach because I think this is an organizational problem with a lot of moves that did not pan out. Jose Siri didn't pan out. A lot of the guys they brought in on the pitching staff, unfortunately, have hit a wall. And it's just not working out for them. Guys like Paul Blackburn hit a wall. Guys like, unfortunately, before he got hurt, and again, I don't want to rag on him because the injury is a horrible thing, the Achilles injury to Griffin Canning, but he too started to struggle recently. David Peterson, Tyler McGill have started to, after great starts to their season, have also hit the wall. It's kind of like law of averages right now. It really is. And as you had Juan Soto struggling at the start of the year, now he's been hitting pretty well. But this offense as a group, collectively, just can't seem to get the job done because bottom of the order isn't that good. It just isn't. Mark Vientos is having a bad year. Brett Beatty, hasn't really developed into that consistent player. Luis Angel Acuna wasn't that great, got sent down again. I'm just repeating things I said in my last video now. It's going to take a big move. They need a big move if they're going to turn this thing around. I don't think it's a coaching move. I don't think it's a personnel move. It could be a personnel move from the standpoint of players making a trade to bring somebody in. They need pitching more than anything else. Could they use another bat? Sure, absolutely. I see these rumors on X, and we all see them like Luis Robert, who is the center fielder for the White Sox, who's hasn't been hitting well. No, they don't need him. Get some pitching. Get some relief help. Get a starter. Do something to rejigger this thing and give the players a little confidence, give the coaching staff a little confidence saying, hey, look, we know how good this team can be. Let's get some help in here to push us back in front, back over the top. Because if they don't do that, and if they are unsuccessful in getting an impact player or two in here, this thing could unravel, and it could be a very disappointing second half of the year here in 2025. But my goodness, 13 out of 16 losses here by the Mets in the last 2+ weeks. They're now 48-36 on the year. And let's take a look at the standings very quickly because Philadelphia won against Atlanta this afternoon. The Mets right now a game and a half behind the Philadelphia Phillies in the NL East. And then there's the wild card. And this is the thing that scares me with the Mets because the wild card in the National League is very steep. You got a lot of teams in the mix. Milwaukee, St. Louis, San Diego, San Francisco. Yes, even Cincinnati, Arizona, and to a degree Atlanta, especially when they play the Mets. Everybody's kind of in it right now. But the Mets only a half game ahead of Milwaukee for the top wild card. And St. Louis is only a game back. And San Diego is only, they're 3 back in the win column, but 1 back in the loss, about 2 games back. So you got teams that are creeping up here in the standings in the wild card, willing to catch and pass the Mets. And if that happens, I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to say. The Mets have the Yankees coming up this weekend. That is going to be a fascinating series on the 4th of July weekend coming up. Like and subscribe. We'll talk to you next time.